Hello adventurers, and welcome to the first of the series of videos I'm going to do about the lore of Legend of Kelamentura. So in this series I'm going to go over, there'll be a few videos. One will be about sort of the history of the world, sort of the ancient history, sort of the founding of the world, the creation of it, and a bit about the Pure Ones and the Scourge gods, sort of the origins of that. And then I'm going to do a video about the Pure Ones themselves, so the actual gods and deities that I've created. And then I'm going to do another video that's more about the sort of the recent history of Kelamentura. And then I'll start going through the various land masses. There's three major world powers and land masses within Kelamentura. So I'm going to do a video on each of those. So there's a couple of videos coming up. We'll see. I have no idea when they're actually going to come out. This one's going to come out fairly quickly, but the other ones, I have to finish writing them first, so we'll see. I do have more written for the Kelamentura one, but the other two, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so, Legend of Kelamentura. Kelamentura, way back when, sort of like Big Bang, if you will, the Big Bang of this universe. Back at the start of it all, there were the first sentient life within the galaxy or the universe were the gods. Back then, they didn't have names or identities. No one had given them names or identities at that point in time. But there were still two distinct factions at the time, the sort of the gods of life and creation and the gods of death and destruction, if you will. These came to be known as the Pure Ones and the Scourge, respectively. So the Pure Ones are life and creation, death and destruction, the Scourge. These two factions obviously had very different beliefs, very different views on things, and very different ways of thinking and acting. So they never really got on. They sort of agreed to bugger off to two separate sides of the universe and never really bother with each other. Just didn't really get on. But as part of this was they came to an agreement that neither faction would create life. Because when they created life, the life that they created would worship the gods, and worship granted the gods more power. At some point, the Scourge gods defied this and started to create life across the universe. They're still gods of death and destruction, but they're still able to create life for gods. They're still able to create life and seed the world with creatures. And then because they're the people, the creatures they've created only know of the Scourge, they only worship the Scourge. So with this boost in power, the Scourge was sought out and started to fight the Pure Ones for sort of, no, screw you, we're going to take over this place. Pure Ones are an exception to this, and a massive cosmic war ensued. And the Pure Ones started off, fought this war by going from planet to planet within the universe, going to entire galaxy, solar systems, and wiping all traces of life. Because the more they destroyed, the less power there was the Scourge to draw upon. But they only did this because every world they came to was just full of just evil and corruption, and just these planets were made in the image of the Scourge. So the life on them to the Pure Ones wasn't worth saving. Now this trend continued for God knows how long, gods know how long. Until at one point, the Pure Ones came across the world that we know as Kelamentura. Now, on this planet, they approached and observed, and they found that, yes, there was a prevalent worship of the Scourge, but there was also atheism. There was people on the planet who didn't worship or disagreed with the worship, so there was like, oh, there's a conflict here. There's not all Scourge. There was Scourge, some non-Scourge. Some people on the planet had heard about the other faction, the other pantheon, worshipped them. Some just didn't worship at all, and some are sort of in the middle. So they went, oh, well, we can't destroy this one because that's it gave them pause at this point, and they looked back at all the destruction, and then they went, "Shit, probably shouldn't have done that. That was a bit. That's not very us. That's very pure. Oh God, well, who are we? Ah." And at that point, they says, "Nope, that's it. We're ending the death and destruction there." So instead, what they did was they went down to the planet and visited the people that were there and told them the truth. In an event that was known as the Visitation. They came down to Mentura, into the city of what is now the city of Mentura. I know, I'm brilliant at naming things. But they came down, visited the people, spoke to them, and told them the truth. And they says, yeah, okay, basically, yes, we are one of the factions of gods. The other faction of gods that you guys, there's a lot of worship here. They're called the Scourge. They're gods of death and destruction. Here's the ongoing war. Very sorry you're tangled up in it, but we need your help. So they enlisted the aid of this world as, okay, maybe you guys can help us. Because at this point, the Pure Ones were able to take out planets and peoples and creatures, but they couldn't really take on the Scourge at this point because they didn't have the power to do so because of the massive worship. So this was the turning point in the war, and the Pure Ones helped the people, their followers, help sort of give them the strength and the power to overthrow the Scourge regimes that were in place. Some of the Scourge regimes went into hiding, some were destroyed, some converted. But over a period of several hundred years, most major traces of the Scourge were wiped out. Still weren't gone completely. There were still some knocking, some pockets here and there, but at that time, for that purpose of this, it was converted from purely Scourge, from 90% Scourge to 90% Pure Ones. And then Kelamentura became like a launching pad, if you will, for the Pure Ones to go out and, for lack of a better word, go on missions to other planets, solar systems, galaxies, and start to convert and overthrow. And at that point, the Scourge started to lose and fall out of favor with the planets, and the whole thing, one thing led to another. And the Cosmic War, the Grand Cosmic War, was eventually conceded by the Scourge. They gave up. They realized we couldn't win, so they gave up and receded into hiding. Meanwhile, back in Kelamentura, the Scourge factions didn't like... The Scourge factions were kind of sick of being persecuted all the time. So they started to rebel. There was in a bit of a... They enlisted the help of what a Scourge that they could attract to the planet, and some other brilliant minds, some scientists, some highly skilled warriors, some very intelligent mages, weavers, if you will, and warriors of the fabric of reality and the martial arts, and a conflict that became known as the Purge started, because the Scourge affiliates started to rise up in power, started to take over again, and at this point it was the Kelamentura. The peoples of Kelamentura most of them came to the agreement that no, we don't want to be part of this. We don't want the Scourge on our planet. We want to get rid of them. So they too enlisted the help of the Pure Ones, and the Purge began. And over the period of hundreds of years, hundreds of years, the Purge slowly but surely took effect. And during that time, the Council of Mentura was formed, the Salazan dynasty started to form, and the Republic of Amberino became an idea as well. That's three major powers. But until such times that the Scourge presence in Kelamentura was nothing, effectively. There were still tiny pockets here and there, some cults here and there, but nothing of any real concern. So at this time, at that point in time, there was what was considered to be peace in Kelamentura. There was no more... Well, there was still... The three powers have conflict and conflict within the things, but on a grand scale, Kelamentura at this point was at peace. And post-Purge, post-Purge with the help of the Pure Ones, and the Pure Ones, for all the aid that Kelamentura gave to them, bestowed upon the people's, their most devout followers, the most devout mages and warriors, and the people who sort of embodied their core values the most. They rewarded them with great magical prowess and martial prowess. And certain individuals stayed on the planet and lived among the rest of the population as very powerful, highly skilled warriors. And some, the greatest of which, were chosen to become champions of the cosmic war. And these champions joined the Pure Ones. And it's sort of an ongoing war of just cleaning and mopping up and helping the Pure Ones make sure that the Scourge never rose to prevalence again. Because if the Scourge were to rise to prevalence again, the death and destruction that followed would be almost unimaginable. So the Pure Ones live in fear, if you will, almost live in fear of the Scourge coming back. So within Kelamentura, specifically on Mentura, around the globe, but mostly on Mentura, worship of the Scourge gods is not only banned, but any occurrence of Scourge magic or worship is hopefully quickly sought out and eradicated, because worship of the gods calls them back and gives them power. And the Scourge gods are inherently evil people. They are inherently evil. Well, they're not necessarily inherently evil. They're just gods of death and destruction. It's kind of their job. They're not exactly good people, but they're not exactly evil people. It's kind of a moral grey area, if you will. But the Pure Ones don't want the Scourge to come back. So that was the purpose of the Purge. And as things stand, there is peace on the world on a grand scale. But I'll get more into the peace and prosperity thing in my next few videos, where I talk about the Pantheon and the history of Mentura, the largest landmass on the world. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So until next time, adventures, see ya.